So Regenesis is the process of midwifing and rebirthing the human condition on all levels. If we take a moment to consider the concept that it invokes an image of letting go of all that doesn't work personally, socially, and globally, and allowing that to be compost for an innovative approach to build, design, and architect the future that we truly want. We must focus on every aspect of the life experience, from spirituality to art and culture, the environment and stewardship of it, health and wellness of spirit, mind, and body, the idea of alternative economic and governance models, green and renewable energy, appropriate science and technology, independent media and communications, and peace and justice.
So, good afternoon, good day, good morning, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to another episode of Regenesis, focused on new humanity, new earth, new paradigm, and new design. So today I have the privilege to reconnect with an old friend, someone I had met over a decade ago in Mexico, but he's been very active for many decades doing his incredible work, really. And we're broadcasting live today from Crestone, Colorado, all the way to infamous Playa del Carmen, Mexico, to have an interview with Mitch Gold. So welcome, Mitchell.
Thank you, Michael, and greetings to the world. I'm going to give you a quick overview of what I've done for the last 40 years. I'm a peacemaker. I started in 1983 with the Planetary Initiative for the World We Choose. And then from there, I went on to, I guess my claim to fame is that I changed one word in international documents. I changed the human rights of the Vienna Conference. The Vienna Conference was on human rights, and I had the terminology and responsibilities. I had those words added, and that's one of my claims to fame.
It may Great, not... and I know today. Again, just to give a little background, You are the United Nations Office of the Future. If you could just tell us a little bit about that. I know we're going to dive into some other material today. Again, you have, 40, 50-year well of incredible works and things you've done. But just tell us a little bit, what is the United Nations Office of the Future and why?
Well, why is because when we're looking at the world, we have to look at the things that are already in place, even if they're not working. And do we throw the United Nations in the garbage, or do we change it? So I'm proposing we change it, and we change it from being a peacekeeping organization to being a peacemaking organization. There's a huge difference between peacemaking and peacekeeping. And I'm currently proposing to the United Nations, as they get ready for the UN Office of the Future, their Office of the Future. I'm proposing to them that they listen to me rather than proceed along the path that they're on. The path that they're on is broken, and the break point at the UN is the UN resident coordinator. If any of you that are listening to this, think about how many UN resident coordinators you've ever met, because those guys are part of the broken system. The donor countries of the United Nations do not have a UN resident coordinator. Let me say that again. The donor countries at the United Nations, they do not have a resident coordinator. We need to teach the UN organization that in the donor countries, that we should have a resident coordinator. And one of their tasks will be to teach Poe and to teach the 10 transformers. And that's what I'm going to do today.
Great. And just to mention, not to interrupt, people might say the United Nations, it's this huge global agency and this and that. But again, you have been involved in the past directly with United Nations, different conferences and summits. So before we jump into Poe head first, can you give a little background of some of the stuff that you were doing in relationship to the UN and maybe some other experiences? I know you were part of the International Day of Peace or the Peace Walk with Arva Looking Horse, but just give a little personal background, and then we're going to jump into what we're going to talk about today, please.
Okay. So when I first got involved with the world peace community, I sent a letter to an international organization called the International Association of Educators for World Peace. I sent a letter to Dr. Charles Murciega. He wrote me back, invited me in, and then I was an agent of this organization that had consultative status at 5 or 6 UN agencies. So I got invited to a number of astounding international meetings, and I always had a role to play. I was speaking on well, which ones do I talk about? International peace cities. How do we make peace in peace cities? I led a conference in Greenwich, England, where we launched the idea of making international peacetime, Greenwich peacetime. Then I also participated in the culture of peace, the decade for a culture of peace that was instigated by Federico Mayor Zaragoza. And at the end of the 10 years, he invited me to a conference in Madrid where I presented the ideas that we're activating now. When I finished my presentation, he took my paper and waved it in front of the audience of 250 world leaders. And he said, "This is what we're going to do." But unfortunately, that was UNESCO talk, because he never did anything other than write me a couple of letters once in a while, supporting my activity. But he never really, the Foundation for a Culture of Peace, which I helped instigate, does not have any information on Mitchell Gold. And that's a shame. And I deserve better treatment, but that's the way the system is. So the most important conference I ever went to was in Korea, held by one of the world's great peacemakers, Dr. Young-Sik Cho. He was the founder of Kyunghee University and one of the major peacemakers of the last 50 years. He was responsible for having September 21st announced as World Peace Day. And he was a dear friend, and he's passed on, of course. But his name should go down in history long before my name gets mentioned. I also met over the years, when I first got involved with global education, I met with Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was a former secretary, some big role at the UN, and he was the guy who instigated the notion of global education at the United Nations. And I was, I guess you could say, I was one of the foremost teachers of global education. And if you go on my site there that you just brought up, you click on just the opening page there, you go down, you'll see a lot of interesting information that will definitely satisfy the notion of giving you stuff you don't know.
Great. And I just want to mention, right now I'm looking through your website. We're at homeplanet.org. Very interesting. I see Global Alliance for Intelligent Arts, Gaia, which is something, thank you. We started that many decades ago, and that's kind of morphed from arts into this concept of full spectrum regenerative design. We know art is a universal language, able to transcend differences and build bridges, but also honoring diversity. So I saw that on there, and wow, that was many years ago in Massachusetts, and we're doing new stuff right now. But again, I wanted to say that you are kind of a curator and an archivist of all these important events, but also these documents, because a lot of people these days don't even realize that many charters and documents, UNDRIP, and these other things have been already created, and whether they're living documents and can be edited or transformed or whatever it is, but you are a link to this incredible history of these documents and the work that's already been laid and accomplished.
Yeah, well, UNDRIP, I planted. I worked with a guy by the name of Jake Swamp, and I had an effect on the UNDRIP. And the problem with the United Nations is it doesn't implement UNDRIP. It leaves it up to the countries. And UNDRIP is not doing the job that it ought to be doing. And that's one of the functions of the UN Office of the Future, is to implement UNDRIP. That's one of its key things. Implement UNDRIP, implement ISO 26000 standards. The ISO 26000 standards, that's the standards that all corporations should be using in order to be compliant with what we're strategizing. If corporations don't start using the ISO 26000, it would be a shame. And I have to take some blame that the reason that it is not all around the world is because I recommended to the ISO group to bring in the UNGC, the Global Compact. And the UN Global Compact came in and neutralized the ISO 26000. They neutralized it because they said they were going to help implement it in the UN agencies, all of them, all 90, but they never did. The guy who did that was a guy by the name of Jorgi Kell, and he taught me one word. He taught me the word soon. When is it going to be implemented? When is it going to be implemented? Soon. Soon in UN language means never. So that I learned that from Jorgi Kell.
And you're going to teach us another word today in just a minute, Po. But for those who don't know, again, I'm looking at the website, and you have an amazing resource of all UN celebratory days, the various world conferences. You're talking about Earth Day, World Water Day, World Health Day. So again, these are things that
by the way, World Water Day happened because I wrote a letter to Noel Brown, endorsed by the Prince of Wales Trust in England, and he took my letter, and at Rio, he brought World Water Day onto the global scene, and we just celebrated World Water Day.
Amazing. So the other question I have is, for people who don't know, what is, you talked about this, these, I think you said ISO, but can you tell us really briefly, and then we're going to jump into Po, about what that, and what is UNDRIP too? Again, we have people here who are not familiar with any of this work, and these charters and these things have been established. So just for a moment about that and UNDRIP.
Okay. Firstly, the ISO group. If you want to find world standards on anything, look to the ISO group. They are the best facilitating organization to developing any global standard. I didn't attend the meetings, but I had an agent of mine attend the meetings, and we brought in the United Nations into the development of the ISO 26000. You can say good for you, or you can say bad for me, but the ISO is an important conglomeration of standards covering whatever industry you're in. There's a standard for it. Even today, there's standards already for graphene, which is amazing if you think about it, because most people haven't even heard about graphene, and yet they've got standards for them, so you can identify what is the standards for graphene. And a quick note on graphene, if you haven't heard of it, should research it. There's been over 20,000 patents issued on graphene. It was only discovered like 20 years ago, and it's going to change the world in all things that we build, with cement, with steel, with rubber, with batteries. Graphene is the future. If you're a business person, you should be looking at what you can do with graphene. And that's what one of the things I want to talk to Sasha about, his New Earth Sanctuary. It's a perfect vehicle for graphene cement, and he should be looking at that. And
well, we definitely want to talk to you about that, because as you know, we have a couple projects right now through Regeneration Global, which is an alliance of people. The Alliance for Regenerative Communities is just kind of a general community of people. Some people communicate, some people collaborate. It's just kind of a open community. But through that, we have actually the DAO, which is our consulting group. But as you know, we are focused and working on a project in Maui, Acapulco for Build Back Green, and also our brother Jerry Anderson just got stewardship of 10,000 acres in the jungles of Puerto Rico. So I know there's a lot of projects happening, and we're definitely interested to hear more about that. And the last thing before we get into Poe, what is UNDRIP?
United Nations Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Before UNDRIP, and the reason the world is in such calamity is that the indigenous people are not considered human beings. They are not considered human beings. That's why we needed UNDRIP, and that was why I worked on it. Because I thought the Declaration of 48 was good enough, but it's not. UNDRIP brings the indigenous cultures into the global family.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. So I know today, again, we can go on for lots of these things. Again, you have decades of the work that you've done. And but we're here today to talk about, and again, I know both of you and I have talked about the Barbara Marx Hubbard Wheel of Co-Creation. I've kind of taken it into the idea of the hub or the wheel of full spectrum regenerative design. But could you just say for a quick second about that, and then we're going to jump into Poe, because these are all fascinating things that you know about that help connect us. But again, we're gonna focus on Poe. So,
okay, well, the Barbara Marx Hubbard co-creation wheel, the one that everybody is using, is colored improperly. If you look at it and then look at our co-creation wheel, you will see that the co-creation wheel that she went forward with was the color scheme makes no sense. But if you look at our co-creation wheel, it not only makes sense, it's usable as a teaching tool. Her co-creation wheel is, other than covering the categories, but the relationship between the color and the category does not exist. And that's a shame, unfortunately, because I hate to rejig something that Barbara Marx Hubbard did, but she never tried to teach her wheel. And that's why she never got it. I worked with her on the wheel, by the way, and we took a 24 sector wheel and we edited it to 12. And the 12th sector we agreed on. And then when I tried to use it to teach, I found that I couldn't teach with it because of the color. Coloring is so important. It's got to do with vibration. Anyone who's into holistic things, if you don't have our co-creation wheel, you're going in the wrong direction, in my humble opinion. So like whoever is using a co-creation wheel, good luck to them if they don't use ours. Let's see, can we see that? I don't know. You can't see it anyhow. When you
I think Mitch, I think you had it as a background at one point.
Yes, I did.
Maybe I'm going to talk for a minute. Maybe you can switch over to that other background if it is easy. If not, I'm going to try to find her wheel of co-creation just so people understand what we're talking about. But if there's a way you can put that up right now, that would be a great resource. So again, if people are watching, I just want to let you know while Mitch is taking care of some technical changes that I'm in the middle of a interview here with Mitchell Gold of the United Nations Office of the Future. And he has decades of work, not only with the UN, but at the peace movement, being involved with many people like Jake Swamp from the Tree of Peace Society, Arvil Looking Horse, and many others. So today we're talking specifically about his incredible archive of the work that he's done over these years. And not only that, we're also talking today specifically, I know he's very passionate about this idea of Poe. So we have a little bit of time left. I want to thank you for joining to watch this broadcast of Regenesis, which is focused on the innovators and the architects that are helping to bring in the new humanity, the new earth, the new design, and the new paradigm. All right, bingo. So with that, I'm going to go back to Mitchell Gold, and we're going to start talking about Poe. And back to you, Mitchell. Thank you.
Okay. Well, Poe is a word. It could be any word. It comes from Edward de Bono. Edward de Bono was the father of lateral thinking. He suggested, he said, what if there was a word that meant, I think I know what you mean, but can you say it to me in another way so I may more fully understand you? Wow, one word, Poe. It means all that. It doesn't mean yes, it doesn't mean no. It means I respect you and I would like to hear a different way of you expressing yourself. And where we use Poe, every idea that we express is either yes, we agree with it, or no, we don't agree with it. Or Poe, meaning I'm not 100% sure to say yes or no. So I say Poe. Poe is an introduction to conversation. It opens the door for all communication. It enables you to look at information in a way that is holistic. Not the way you hear the term holistic, but in a real holistic fashion. And how that is facilitated is by taking the 10 transformers. The 10 transformers, this guy document here. Can you see it? I don't know. The 10 transformers has the co-creation wheel on it. It has Poe on it. Poe is the largest thing on the page. But let me give a working example, because we've been in communication with your network for a while, and there seems to be an opinion that an advertising agency is not a good idea. I think it's an ultimate good idea, and we're going to use the 10 transformers and Poe to make our minds up, because nobody should say this is what we should do, but before we make a decision, we ask ourselves these questions. First one, does an advertising agency, does it serve my highest purpose? I say yes. I don't say no, I don't say Poe. If anyone says no, they don't understand what advertising agencies do. But I understand.
I would say I would tend to agree with you. And if you were on the call, which I know you were for Earth Day yesterday, actually, Haidai, who's working with the governments in Bali and Taiwan to do programs and curriculums around regenerative leadership, they're actually working with an agency which has proved to be very effective. So I'm in agreement. Continue, sir.
Okay. Well, the second question, which is part of the first, is it relevant? We use this for anything we were wanting to do. Is it relevant? Yes, no, or Poe. Do I have enough information to make a decision? Those guys in Australia don't have enough information to make a decision, yet they've already made a decision. This is a problem. Whenever they speak, I can't hear them because they're coming from not knowing. If they knew.
And what is the name of the document you're reading right now?
This is the 10 transformers.
Thank you.
So do I have enough information to make a decision? Why that is important, when we're in a communication with other people, when their body language sometimes indicates, get on with it. I don't want to hear about it. But it's important that when they're maybe indicating yes or no by body language, that they have an idea that there's more information to be known on most everything. Another sub-question is, can we involve other stakeholders? Absolutely, yes. We can always involve other stakeholders. I'm very strong yes there. Am I being wise? Well, this is up to the question we're analyzing. If to say no about it to an advertising agency, you're not being wise. You don't have enough information. I would love these guys in Australia to fill this out and analyze a couple of the decisions that they've made. Because when you use the 10 transformers, it points out where your weaknesses in thinking are. The next question, are judgments or bias present? Some people, I have a bias for, I say, yes, I have a bias for advertising agents. Or they'll have to say they have a bias against it. But the transformers helps identify where you are and where we're going. Next question is, have I used compassion and mercy in my decision? There is no other tool on the planet that addresses your human compassion. This is a huge question, although it may seem secondary, but it's very important that when we're making decisions that we use compassion. And it's yes, no, or po. And then there's the notion, question 6, is my heart making my decision on its own? Sometimes you do that. You make a decision because it's heartfelt, but it may not be the right thing. So we're analyzing that. And does this allow myself and others to be involved to reach peak performance levels? I think ad agencies will help us reach peak performance faster than without them. They are an integral part of all social change, whether we like it or not. That's why they're still there. They were obsolete when for a time, but they have re-emerged because they used to be 15%. Advertising agencies took 15%. And then as volumes of business used to take 15%, agencies started to just negotiate fees. And when they started to negotiate fees, that was the doom of the agencies, because economic precedents took over in the decision-making process. But we negotiated from 15% to a fee-based. And most agencies today are fee-based. They're also percentage-based, but those percentages are also negotiated down because of the volume of money. The 8th question is, will something of lasting endurance be created? Will something of lasting endurance be created? Well, I think so. I think what the work that we're doing with Regenesis, with an advertising agency, and you get it on the lips of every person in the world, you don't do that without an ad agency. You'll stay in, we're all in a little circle. You know, like all the people that we're all in little circles. And to get out of that circle, we need an ad agency. So will this build a strong foundation? For me as an individual, yes. And for Regenesis or for Earthstock, or yes. If we have to ask Poe on it, I'm okay to go for Poe, but we should know, at least know what we know. And then, does this good, service, or issue help heal the planet?
Mm.
That's what we're all about. If it does, if we can't say yes to that, we then we should have our heads read. So those are the 10 questions, and they're answered in the way of yes, no, or po. And when there is an understanding that is reached between two people, the word yuye, it's a Maya word, yuye. Yuye means we agree on the fundamental principles of our communication with each other. Yuye. So,
Wow, amazing.
I'm just going to read here one thing. Po means you are unsure of the answer as it pertains to addressing the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual perspectives. PMES, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual perspectives of information involving the 4 E's: economics, ethics, energy, and health. Those 4 things, economics, ethics, energy, and health, while they're called the 4 E's, it's because they represent the environmental component that we need to address. When you're looking at economic, ethics, energy, and health, then we will know, we'll have some basis for our own thinking. The economics, ethics, energy, and health, those 4 notions came from studying triple bottom line accounting. People were always started to use triple bottom line accounting after the Brundtland report came out in 1987. A fellow in England by the name of John Elkington came up with the idea, like if we're going to have sustainability, we need to concern ourselves with the environment, with ethics, and economics. And I wrote him after he came out with that. I said, John, the environment is not one of the pillars that holds up. The notion was economics, ethics, and the environment was what we should be shooting for. I said, no, the environment is not one of the pillars. The environment is the mantle.
Right.
We still
well, I want to do that. I wanted to do that. Go ahead.
Let me just finish this. The environment is the mantle held up by economics, ethics, energy, and health. Those and health and energy are critically important to any analysis. So we're moving beyond triple bottom line. So you may see in my writing, I refer to beyond triple bottom line. We are leaders in the field there because John Elkington couldn't change his mindset on energy and health. And energy and health are major constructs that need to be brought into accounting standards. Yes, and you had a question.
Absolutely. Well, I just wanted to say I love the wheel of co-creation. It's like it's almost like a rainbow halo around you, accentuating the work that you've done for so long. But I just wanted to run through this for a minute because in our effort to become more coherent, more co-creative, and more collaborative, and we appreciate your time and everything you said today. That we're kind of going back through the A to Z of what's happening right now in real time. So currently we have the Alliance for Regenerative Communities, and I wanted to say that was an initiative that was set up by Earthstock. And the idea is, because we live in a world where we don't want to have hierarchies, or it's okay to have maybe a central administration. Everybody has their own brand, their own project, their own silo, their own initiatives, and their own network and templates that they're working with. So the organization I'm affiliated with, Earthstock Foundation, we created this platform of the Alliance for Regenerative Communities as a way for people that we call innovators, visionaries, solutionaries, regenerators to come in and give them a neutral space to have communication and connection. Some people engage and other people don't engage, but that the idea was that through the Alliance for Regenerative Community initiative and platform, it's a way for people to connect. Now, within that, we started the DAO, which symbolizes, means decentralized autonomous organization. Again, a group that's not a hierarchy, a group that's collaborative and co-created, a group that's based on membership, because when you become a member, you get a governance token to be able to make decisions on various initiatives and campaigns that we're able to implement. And again, this is not just all over the map. This is very much about regenerative solutions. And just like the Wheel of Co-Creation, we look at solutions. They might be spiritually related. They might have to do with traditional, indigenous, or spiritual knowledge, but they also have to deal with things like health, the environment, also with agriculture. They might have things to do with appropriate technology, and also media. So this group right here, I'm really excited about, because it's really, I call it the lions coming to the round table that actually want to engage, implement, and meet weekly as a decentralized, non-hierarchical organization. And again, that was something we started from Earthstock. What's happening right now is through the DAO, we launched our first campaign, and we all did a vote on it in response to the climate change disasters. And again, people want to debate, is it human made? Is it a natural cycle? We're not here to debate over the threads or the grains of sand on the beach. We're saying that there's a lot of things happening right now with wildfires, with flooding, with hurricanes, climate related disasters that are happening, and people are being affected. So we launched our first initiative, which was Build Back Green, saying, okay, well, this area has been decimated. The need to remediate and the need to redesign in a more sustainable green way is definitely needed. And as you can see, we did a campaign originally in Hawaii, and currently we do that as a monthly broadcast. We have been able to do soil remediation. We've been able to work with people there that are doing emergency housing. We've been able to do a lot of good there. But also right now, we're currently doing a campaign in Acapulco, Mexico, in collaboration with a community of people there. So as we did this, we realized that even if people don't have a natural disaster, the need for them to make a transition to a more sustainable way of being is really important. So I'm working right now with Professor Tratner, one of the co-founders of Earth Day, and he's incubated hundreds of green organizations. Himself and myself and many others are coming now to forge this global council for regenerative solutions called Regeneration Global. So I just wanted to kind of very quickly, not do my own infomercial, but just kind of mind map what's happening in real time right now, as far as, we can talk about things, but we need to start sharing our templates, our different initiatives, campaigns. We need to start co-creating and collaborating more. And personally, I really appreciate not only the work that you've done as an archive, but the ability for us to look back at what's already been done and how can we elaborate on that? How can we edit it? How can these become living, evolving documents? And I know many people are anti-UN. I know there's a lot of issues with sustainable development goals and this and that. And like you said, how can they be peacekeepers going to peacemakers, which is a whole different kind of approach. But nonetheless, we have to bridge all of these organizations, government organizations, nonprofits, NGOs, individuals, tribal communities, and individuals to start implementing and deploying real world solutions. We, as my native friends say, we can't just ear tickle anymore. So I just want to acknowledge the work that you're doing, and I love the idea of Poe, and like you said, the 10 principles for
10
a decision.
transformers.
Yeah, 10 transformers for a decision making process. So
When
I
we
do.
when anyone comes into your organization, they should fill it out. Why
Well,
are they here? Ask them why they're here.
well, I would love to adopt that and continue our collaboration, because again, people are easy these days, very divisive and kind of stuck in their own opinion or perception or perspective. And I understand that. But as you know, we're looking for people who want to show up, who want to communicate, follow through, and who want to collaborate and activate some of these charters and platforms that we already have. We don't have to keep fractaling out and recreating the wheel. So
right. Well,
in just the last minute or two that we have, I just wanted to check in if any other things you'd like to share before we get towards completing for today.
absolutely. There is an organization called Younga, Younga. Younga, I've sort of been mentoring them for a number of years, but they had a huge problem last year. They made a presentation at COP28, and they were when you
Subverted.
They were subverted in their presentation. The day they arrived in Doha, their bill for this woman who ran it, Kelly Lavelle, she had 52 people coming from all around the world to participate in her presentation. The day they arrived, the hotel, the Atlantis, don't anyone ever use the Atlantis again, they tripled their hotel bill from $250 a night to $750 for 60 people. And she had to scramble to get those people set up. And this was all because, as I understand it, the United Arab Emirates, and we have to be wary of the United Arab Emirates because they are making steps around the world that will rock your socks. They have subverted the UNFCCC. You've heard of UNFCCC? That's the UN agency that is looking after how we're going to spend $1 trillion a year. And they've taken it over and are slowing it down so much you couldn't believe it. By shutting down Kelly still has because we're using it, has a digital currency based on our values. She has a digital currency called the BTGX, Bridge the Gap. BTGX, Bridge the Gap. And she has the support of 12 UN agencies. Now, I haven't read her report on what happened in COP28, but I'm waiting to hear it, and then I'm going to go ballistic with it because they shuttered. Imagine, like it was worse than what happened to you in Chichen Itza in 2012. It was worse.
Well, I will say this, the idea of oil sheiks running COP28 and making decisions, especially this year at COP28, where they said that petroleum industry is not having a negative impact on the environment and climate change. Again, there's wolves in the hen house.
That's all because of the UAE. They're the ones who are doing that. And UAE in December joined BRICS. Brazil, yes, Russia, India, China.
Yeah, and also South Africa, Iran, and
Yes,
others who are getting off the petrodollar, being the US dollar, which basically props up the US economy.
well, I think that if we implement this, people will, this will be an income generator because people will want to self-assess. When we have this put into a digital format and people can track their yes, nos, and pos. Right now, they just fill it in and they could date it and file it away. But this information could be very valuable in evaluating all staff in a company. We'll know if people are comfortable with what it is they know. We will end, hopefully, the notion of the Peter Principle. Are you too young to know the Peter Principle? Hello?
I know of it. I might not know it, so I'm just going to claim Poe and listen to you.
Okay. The Peter Principle suggests that in every hierarchical structure, the incompetence rises at the top. The guy at the top is afraid to do anything and becomes incompetent. You don't get anything done. The Peter Principle says in every hierarchical structure, you've got weakness at the top. Everyone. And if you look at you go look at any organization that has a hierarchical structure, I mean, that's why we use the term decentralized. I mean,
Well, that
decentralized.
was right. And that was the whole part of the Occupy movement about the 1%ers making 90% of the world's revenue, and basically the majority of people kind of enslaved to these corporations. And again, the whole concept of profit over people. It's very old paradigm. So I will say this: I have like another minute or two left, and then we're going to roll out with the trailer. I want to thank everyone for tuning into Regenerative Media TV. This is the show, Regenesis. We're talking with Mitchell Gold of the United Nations Office of the Future. And we've been talking about the Wheel of Co-Creation and Poe. And we've been talking about some of the archives that he's curating of these incredible documents that, again, a lot of people aren't even aware. A lot of this work has been done. Maybe some of them need to be revised or edited, but there's a lot of work that we can continue to build on for the future. So any last words you'd like to share before we wrap up for today, Mitchell?
There's a tremendous amount of information on my website, homeplanet.org there. And I recommend for anybody that wants to immerse themselves in the last 40 years of my life should look and see how many different things that we have instigated. There's probably too many to recount. And the most important is what we've talked about. Poe and the 10 Transformers, that this 10 Transformers is worth $1 billion to Regenesis. Because
all right, well, we're going to continue co-creating and collaborating. Thank you for your amazing work over decades and for continuing to show up. And that's about going to bring us to the end of the show today. So we're going to do our rollout. And any last words of wisdom?
You yay. You yay. That's
okay.
A word. That means we are in concert with our thinking. You yay.
Absolutely. We're forming a symphony, a regenerative symphony.
Yeah. Well, I'm not so attached to the new ideas. I unfortunately feel that the UN has to be reformed. Too much energy has gone into it to just throw it in the garbage. I think we have to restructure it.